Hello, and welcome to the Divinely Sovereign podcast. I'm your host, Senna Scott. I'm a sovereignty empowerment coach and an intuitive artist. The Divinely Sovereign podcast is a spiritual growth podcast and sanctuary for women becoming their most creative, expressive, and sovereign self. This is for the woman who is done pushing, proving, and performing, and ready to live from self-trust, embodiment, inner authority, and divine alignment. If you are in a season of becoming, this space is for you. There's a difference between building something and becoming something, between creating offers and living a revolution. Today's episode is an invitation into legacy, not as a destination, but as a way of being, a way of leading, creating, and showing up in the world fully expressed, fully alive, sovereign, and unapologetically you. And today, I'm joined by someone who doesn't just teach this, she embodies it and lives it out loud. Nikki Revis is a firekeeper and quantum business engineer whose entire body of work is built on one premise. Legacy isn't built by what you do, it's built by who you are when you do it. She's the creator of Fuck the Niche methodology and the Brand Revolution Business School, where multi-passionate, conscious CEOs stop building businesses and instead architect identity-anchored ecosystems, revolutions that generate wealth, create impact, and sustain themselves beyond the founder's presence. She's here to talk about what it actually takes to live and lead a legacy that lasts without burning out your flame. It is with my greatest honor to welcome my sister, Nikki Revis. Hello,
Hi.
welcome.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Such an honor, such a privilege. I'm so ecstatic, truly ecstatic to be here.
Yes, I'm so happy you're here too. And first off, let's tell the listeners where in the world are you right now?
I am in the beautiful sacred land of Bali, Indonesia. Mama Bali, she is here with us, holding us in this conversation. Yeah,
Yes. Welcome, Mama Bali.
yeah. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So, Nick, you say
Mhm,
legacy isn't built by what you do, but who you are when you do it. Can you take us
mhm.
deeper into the story? What brought you here, and what does that actually mean? Live day to day.
Yeah, I mean, really the journey goes way, way, way back to childhood. Being this very firecracker, emotional authority, like loud, multi-dimensional, multi-passionate little girl with really big feelings and really big emotions and really big perspectives that are sometimes provocative and edgy or rebellious in nature, in a very conservative household and watching the conditionings and the layers and the suppression and like you're too much, you're too much, you're too much, you're too much, and you need to fit this box and you need to fit this box. So I spent most of my life teetering in and out of this box. Luckily for me, I was like too fiery to like stay in the box, but I kept like, okay, if I just get back in the box, life will be easier. If I can just like get myself back in the box, then life will be easier, then I will be easier to love, then I will be easier to be, to
Mm.
handle, and it'll be easier to, get to heaven and be what everybody else tells me I need to be working towards and through. So that was most of my childhood. And then I started to connect to my power really through like depression. Deep dark heavy depression is was the portal and the access point to starting to rekindle this relationship with my fire, because I was so suppressed and it didn't feel good and there was no pleasure and there was no aliveness, which was so different from the little version of me who I was at my core and at my essence. And so that was the start of this awakening and this remembering journey. But of course, as one often does, I pendulated straight into, let me prove everybody who tried to tell me that I was too much, let me prove them wrong. Let
Mhm.
me, perform, and let me like, and I was like, success. If I'm successful, then that's like the greatest FU to everybody that told me, all the stories that they told me. And so I did end up like through fitness and like working and grinding and consistency and discipline and willpower. And I was like, I'm going to check every box and I'm going to be like perfect by success standards. And I built a beautiful multi-six-figure business, an incredible community that I loved deeply. But inside of my business, I was drowning. I was suffocating. I was smothered because I was exhausted. I had nothing left to give. There was nothing else like I could do to prove, you know? And so I built this entire brand in that energy, in that like, and so the deconditioning of that actually basically required selling, letting go, getting rid of this thing that I had poured, like when I say every ounce of my being, like blood, sweat, and tears in so many. I mean, we built walls, we tore down walls with our bare hands to be resourceful. It's like blood, sweat, tears, you know, sun up to sundown, poured everything into this thing for me to ultimately, it was my first time coming to Bali that really started to unwind and unravel and bring clarity. And Mama Bali, is the dragon that she is, really burnt down constructs and identities, and she illuminated shadows in ways like I knew when I was aware that where I had bypassed my body in a lot of ways, but there were so many other shadows that she illuminated with her light, with her fire. Truly, like that's, fire is light, and shadows are just the absence of light. And so you can't hide when you're on Mama Bali. She will, with her fire, illuminate, and she will clear and sage anything that is not for you. And sometimes it's a little bit activating, a lot of it activating, a lot of it aggressive. It can feel, you know, jarring, activating, aggressive in nature. And I think I have this relationship with Mama Bali because her medicine and my medicine are a lot alike in so many ways. And so it was this deconditioning. And ultimately, I ended up taking on a business partner that was really misaligned because I was so desperate for support that I just like ended up taking what I could get. And it was a rapid unraveling of everything that I had created. And I had to truly basically walk away. From everything that I built, and the grief and the depth and the identity loss that took me into, and that portal. And through that portal, the rebirth of what do I want business to actually feel like? I'm really good at this. I'm really good at seeing potential. I'm really good at finding creative solutions. I am a well-resourced woman. Like I got to see all of the truth that was found in that journey, even if there were so many ways that I didn't do it perfectly aligned, because I felt a certain kind of way. There was so much medicine in reverse engineering. So I'm a quantum engineer. I can see energetics and identity and patterns in the unseen, but I also can see that in a way that makes it actualizable in the 3D and participate with all of it. So I really just went to work like reverse engineering everything that worked really well, and like why it worked and how it felt and how did it maybe need to be different, so on and so forth. And from that came my greatest body of work, and the harmony, the balance, the freedom, the liberation, the codes that I now get to share were all accessed through that whole experience. And yeah, so that's in a nutshell, that's the cliff notes of how I got to be where I am, and reclaim what legacy gets to not just mean, and not what it looks like, but truly what it feels like.
Yeah. Yeah. What I hear so much is like it's no longer about like the outside in. It's
Mhm.
like it's the inside out.
Inside out.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Was there a moment when you realized that like you just weren't here to build a business in the traditional sense, but something
Um
much bigger? Like
yeah,
what was that shift?
honestly, I would say it's been a knowing my entire life. It truly has been something that I had to remember. I had to remember all of the times as a child where I would feel larger than life. I could dream, and I could imagine, and I could get my head in the clouds until everybody told me that it was too much or to be realistic. And when I say I was like the ultimate pessimist and the ultimate realist, like I went from being so like, all of my imaginary play was like, I'm a celebrity, or I'm on stage, or I'm helping the world in this way, or I am this and I am that. And it was so big and it was so vast. And then suddenly because of all of the conditionings, I was the most logical, practical, rational realist you could ever imagine. And so I would not, if it was unrealistic, I would not even touch it. And so it was just fascinating to like have that reclamation. But truly, it was as I started to allow myself to reclaim my fire. What does fire and light do? It continues to illuminate what exists in the shadows and what exists in the unseen. And so then that brought me back to this remembrance that, I mean, I did public speaking competitions as a kid, and I was student body president, and I was just so just innately ambitious for nobody but myself because I knew what I could do and I knew my power. And I was really embodied in that until, the world told me, don't be too much. And so it was that reclamation, and it was a remembering. And as I continue to remember and I continue to reclaim and I continue to live my big, activating, loud fire, it continues to expand. The vision just continues to grow. It's truly, the imagination is a muscle, and that imagination comes from our womb. It comes from our creative portal, our creative center. And so the more that we exercise that and we allow the dreams, we allow ourselves to explore that limitless potential, this safety in our nervous system that like normalizes that big of a dream and our capacity to hold that dream and that vision. When we stabilize inside of that much bigness, it opens us up to the next iteration and the next iteration and the next evolution. So that's kind of been the journey to like, I have a very wild, very larger than life call. And truly, it's not a dream anymore. It's a call. And there's nothing in my fiber and in my being that could stop me from continuing on that trajectory. And again, it's not about outcome. I am completely indifferent as to like where I actually land. I just know that I have to move in this direction as this version of myself, as if it is already here, detached from the outcome of where I actually land, but knowing that this dream and this desire that is larger than life is moving something that is bigger than me in that direction where I cannot be stopped. But it's not for anybody else, but like I can't not. This is where my womb is calling me. And even when it's hard and dark and heavy, this is the call and I must go.
Yeah. Oh, so I'm in your Fire Keepers and Brand Revolution. And so what's this does? And you're also my fucking coach. And like, oh my God, the fire, the activations, the like, oh, the clarity, the like, oh, when somebody is like showing you through your sacred fire, like your live out loud movement. Oh my God. How do I say this? Like, it showed me all the ways in which I wasn't living out loud. And so I would be like, oh my God, I'm expanding and I'm also seeing these things. And it's like the fire was like cleansing. And because I had joined like your kinky kickoff call last fall. And I just was like on fire. I was like, these codes, what this bitch got, what this authority got. But that, like, I also felt so seen because I'm like, this podcast, this Divinely Sovereign, it's like, it's bigger than just a podcast. There are codes moving through me. There's this embodiment of, it's mine, but it's also not mine. It's like, it's meant to be shared, and it's moving me and it's transforming me and it's breaking me down to my knees and I'm getting back up, and fucking COVID and cellular upgrades. Like, jeez Louise.
The
But
fire gate is real.
yeah, but it's just this mastermind that you've created has been, so transformative, so clearing, so like, it's called me up to my sovereignty in new ways. And so I want to thank you. Like, it's just been so fucking great. And also, yeah, to just be in a room with other women that are doing this, that are following the call, that are believing in it, that are bringing it through their heart, mind, wombs, grounding it. Like this shit, this is birthing realities. This is completely quantum shifting our timeline for ourselves, for humanity. Like this is big. This is big, big work. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
So yeah, you're living this and you're teaching this in real time. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about this big, bold move of you had relocated your family to Bali, and
Mhm.
then life asked you to pivot.
Yes.
And I'd love to hear about, and if you'd like to share some story around this, because it's been inside our container, it's been like you've been fucking alchemizing these codes into something just masterful. And so I was wondering if you'd like to share some of that with us.
Absolutely. So it really goes back to the continual reclamation of these codes that I carry, that I'm being called forward, that like I can't not live this out loud and live it out loud, even when it's raw, even when it's messy, deconditioning that inner perfectionist that was so like, you have to do it just right. And it was very outcome driven and performative. And so continuing to decondition that, and so much of what we really practice inside of the Firekeepers Mastermind is that live loud reclamation. And so this has been such an opportunity to model, because that's another part of the reason we're living loud is to show, not tell. Like we're kind of really over being told what to do as embodied leaders, that there is no resonance in that. We've been told what to do, and it didn't end well for us, right? We are here to lead ourselves truly, that like that sovereignty that you so beautifully model. And I see you, just to mirror back to you, the way that you so fully, vulnerably, authentically show up and circle in our space and model what circling really feels like, and your full expression and your capacity to lead yourself through your alchemy on our calls in real time. And you model that so beautifully for us. So I just want to mirror that, like, that live loud. I see you and every woman inside living that out loud and leaning in, because part of living out loud is that like authenticity or even authority. We have these archetypes that we dance with in my space, and the authority, I hear it a lot in the marketing space, but the way that I like what I see, what like they're telling you is just like the audacious version of you, of like, yeah, have the balls to take up space and like name and claim your authority positioning. And to that, I'm like, yes, absolutely. And the other side of authority, core word auth, is authenticity. And that authenticity also requires transparency,
Yeah.
like authenticity, vulnerability, and transparency. And that is even harder. Like it's one thing to lead and show up when you feel really good, when you don't have COVID, when you're not in the middle of some massive life unexpected pivots and activations, or the fire gate is what I like in the ceremony of life, when it starts to get spicy and hot and sweaty and clammy, and you want to contract or you want to run away because it's getting really hot and really uncomfortable. Inside of the fire gate, who are you? And who can you become inside of the fire? And so the inevitability, I had no choice but to show up. And so this is the other side of the perspective that we take inside of like the brand revolution and the Firekeepers Mastermind, is this revolutionary approach to building a business. Is most people will teach you to look at your story, to look at history, to look at what you've already reclaimed. And yes, that's the trailhead. But truly, if you only ever built from the past, you are going to hit a spot. And this is speaking from experience, that business that I basically had to burn down and walk away from, it was built from the past. It was built from a safe place. I didn't have as much imposter syndrome to share that because I had reclaimed it. So I had proof in my body and my nervous system that I could walk that and that I could walk beside somebody else walking that. And again, beautiful trailhead, beautiful starting place. But the kind of women that we work with, fire keepers, we are evolving at a rapid fire pace. We evolve and we alchemize very quickly. The identity upgrades, the cellular upgrades that we are constantly moving through is so quick. And most of us are very multi-passionate, multi-gifted. We are not linear, liminal beings. We are multi-directional. We are multi-passionate. We are multi-dimensional. And so there's this very linear way that, like, if we're just attached to these identities and we're only walking people through what we've already walked, there is going to come a point in our life where we outgrow that. Or that is not going to like turn us on and keep us alive, because we have to remember that our aliveness is also the activation. It's also the grief. It's also the imposter syndrome. Like, those sensations in your body is proof of how alive you are. So how can we actually on purpose access those, and in that simultaneously stretch our capacity to hold and birth the size of the dream of where we have not been? So it's not just about reclaiming the story and where you have been historically. That's just the trailhead. That's just like the practice where you get to start practicing with that dance and start to feel safe. But if you really want a business that you won't outgrow, that will outlive you, that is so big and so revolutionary, you're going to have to move from where you are not and who you are not. And this is why so many people are not doing it, because it is the scariest, most activating thing, most confronting thing that you can do. That fire will turn on the activations, the grief, the rage, the fear, like all of it will roar its head at you. So I call it a high voltage activation. I'm not sugarcoating what it is inside, like what it will require of you to hold and dance. And I'm no exception to that rule. I'm no exception to that law. Like, I am saying yes to this, which means I'm going to have to participate with the initiations that are inviting me and calling me forward, which, because I created a space where I'm like, yeah, guys, let me show you how to build a revolution from where we are not, which means I have to put all of my raw, vulnerable, big ass, wild ideas and dreams out there before I'm ready to put it out there. I have to name it and claim it to you guys and share what I'm experiencing behind the scenes, to model, to show, not tell. Not to tell you, like, oh, if you check this box and you do this thing, like, no, we're unlocking codes in the same way that we, like, you know, learn about a certain archetype, or we hear a story of somebody else that has been somewhere that we haven't been before, what we see in that mirror and how that allows us to lead ourselves to where we're going. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm just showing you behind the scenes of all the ways that I'm being activated and I'm having to show up, and I'm having to tell you guys what I'm working through in real time when I really want to hide. And I want to collapse into my bed and not get up again and not be seen by the world. But I have to, true leadership is, again, how you show up when you don't feel like it. And this journey and this experience in Bali has been that for me. But the inevitability it created, that, again, was bigger than me, that I can't not, right? That, like, well, I can't not move in this direction. I can't not move in this way because it is bigger than me. But also, when I talk a lot about infrastructure, and infrastructure, most people immediately assume is strategy. And while we dance with strategy, but it's very secondary. It's like, that's like the last piece, and it's very fluid, and it's going to be very unique and very different for every single business. Like, no two business models are going to be the same. They were never intended to be the same, which is why most multidimensional people are like, strategy feels really ick. It feels really gross. And it's because it's missing the identity piece, the energetic piece. But it's that, like, the identity and the energetic piece has to come first in who you're being, which is also the reclamation of where you are not. And when you put yourself out there, one of my systems, one of my, like, hacks, I don't love that word, but it is the shortcut that creates the accountability that everybody is seeking. But that accountability is now intrinsic, because that accountability is my own integrity to my own word, to my own reclamation, to my own revolution, that I already put it out there. And you guys are paying me. You are giving to me. You are trusting me. with life force energy, with your presence, with your awareness, with your heart, with your vulnerability, with your authenticity. And because of that, I can't not show up. So it's like that, because I was willing to let somebody pay me and I've been transparent, like, this is where I'm going, but also this is where I am. I can absolutely, like, I will name, I will claim, I will hold that authority of who I am now and the proof that I do have and I have cultivated. But I also just will be radically transparent of where I am not, but also where I am devoted to going, and share my dreams and share my desires and share my activations and share what feels hard. And there were moments when I first got here where I was like, I think I'm being called to Bali so I can show people what freedom and sovereignty looks like. I have no attachments and I can just like sell half of my belongings and put things up in storage. My little ego was like, I'm going to model, right? Like, I'm going to live out loud. I'm going to model freedom. I'm going to model sovereignty in a new way. And not because everybody's going to be called to condense their things to a storage unit, but because seeing people do really cool shit might be like, oh, what could I do if I believed in it? And I do believe that there is medicine in that. But truly, the reclamation was like, I'm doing this to experience a new level of freedom. And I got here and there were so many disruptive, unexpected things that created such a felt sense of insecurity. Moments where like there are times where I'm like, I haven't experienced this level of like uncertainty and instability and ungroundedness and a felt sense of like, am I safe? Where am I not? Do I trust myself? Can I handle this? Can I get up again? Like these deep moments, like you said, that bring you to your knees. And I've hit so many of those where I'm like, I don't feel free. She showed me, Mama Bali showed me with her fire where I was not free. And then I had to name that and I had to speak that and I had to tell my community that like, I came here to model freedom and in this moment, I don't feel free. And that's what I'm actively reclaiming. And because I spoke it and I have you guys in my space before I'm ready, before I'm, like these new levels and iterations of liberation that I'm actively reclaiming in real time because you guys joined the space inside of the active reclamation of where I am going, not just where I have been. It created an energetic infrastructure that held me accountable and got me up off of my knees because it was bigger than just me.
That.
That.
Yeah. Yeah.
That.
Oh, so you've
Yeah.
spoken about Mama Bali
Mm.
as a life force, as an energy. And I'm curious if, like, you've touched on it a little bit about it, but specifically, I'm gonna ask the question, how has this experience supported or shaped you in this season?
Mm. It's everything that I would have never asked for, but I would never take any of it back. Because now that it's been about 6 weeks since I left my home, and the deepening of what home means, the greater clearing and the detachment of what I thought that meant and how home I thought I was.
Yeah.
And it illuminated some illusions that were still dancing in the shadows, and divine union and harmony and trust and safety and finding. I've shared this inside of my fire keepers, but I'm like, if I can hold this and I can still show up, and I've grown, my business has grown because these frameworks are in place and they held me accountable to continue to show up. They were infrastructure in place to support me. But it also, like, when you create a revolution, I always say this too, and you go, like, you take people on the journey with you while you're actively doing it, not just like, oh, hey, I'm already the expert, this like very student coach model, kind of very hierarchical. I'm the expert, and now you're going to pedestalize me because I'm already the expert in this, versus like, let's even the playing field. Let's all reclaim this and practice this together as a circle and in real time together. It shifted everything. But what she's activated in me and what I've been able to share, but also how it's connected us and how it's illuminated the next vision, the next evolution. It's deepened whys. it's deepened hows. And I think the mirror is, you can attest that that's also what happens inside of my space as well. Inside of my field, is it deepens and it clarifies the whys and the hows and how unique they are to you, not because I'm telling you what your why is and what your how is, because I could never, right? But just like inviting you to actively create and birth the revolution that you feel, that imposter syndrome and that stickiness of like, I'm not ready to hold this. And I'm like, Mama Bali, I'm not ready to hold this. And she's like, I'm going to show you that you are. And I'm going to show you that you are because you're going to question all the times and all the moments. And it's going to bring up all of those stories and all of those beliefs that have been hiding, and the fears and the insecurities and the like stories that I have around my own capacity, to prove to you who you are and show you and mirror to you your own fire and your own capacity and your own power. And now I have that proof in my body and my bones. And I'm like, because I have no rhythm, no cadence, no, like my home has changed, like where my physical environment. So the patterns and the safety of like, oh, I know where my bathroom is. I know how to get water, fresh water, because every villa has different. Some people are like, I'll give you 2 water bottles a day. So I'm like, okay, how do I get fresh water to even brush my teeth, right? So I'm like, okay, I need to get water. Where's my next meal coming from? Oh, this villa doesn't have a kitchen. This villa has, does have a little stovetop. This villa, like every environment is rapidly changing of where am I even going to feed and fuel my body? Where is my next meal going to come from? Where is my water going to come from? Where is my transportation coming from? And so there's so much on top of the uncertainty and the big life lessons. There's been these micro life lessons of how much safety and security there was in having just like one landing pad, like having a home that is yours, that is consistent, that you wake up every day and you know where you're at. And you know where your water's coming from, and you know where your food's coming from, and you know where the grocery store is, and like all of these like luxuries, truly a deeper iteration in like, what is luxury to me? What does luxury feel like to me? And I'm like, the second I get home and I get to get in my own vehicle and drive myself to the gas station that I used to think is such a burden, I'm like, the liberation, the freedom, the luxury, right? Like the perspective just changes so radically, but being shown in all the ways that, like how disruptive that can be to your nervous system when you're holding other big, really big confronting shadows and stickiness on top of navigating all these micro decisions. And then also seeing, where do I need to be supported in myself? Where do I need to hold myself? Where do I not trust myself? Like it just brought up everything like roaring to a head. So there's just medicine everywhere here, everywhere in all of those decisions. But the certainty that I now have in my world, the level of freedom that I had to recreate. I had to create it. It wasn't just I could just be here and being like, no, I'm not safe. I don't know where I'm going to get my water. I don't know where I'm going to get my food. I don't know where I'm going to sleep in 3 days. I don't know where, I don't know who I'm going to meet tomorrow. I don't know, all of these things. I had to refine safety in me, in my home, in my soma, inside of that initiation of disruption and uncertainty. And I wouldn't change any of that for the world, because if I can hold that and I can create and I can grow and scale my business, and the proof that I have that these infrastructures and these quantum frameworks work, and they will hold you and they will help you rise in the moments where you don't know how you're going to get up, because it is so scary and so confronting. I wouldn't change that for the world. And what a gift it's been for me to be held, but like having called in women who are actively inside of it with me, not behind me, sitting with me as equals, as sisters inside of the same reclamation. When you're willing to like really level that playing field, you actually get to be held just as much as your people hold you. You get to be paid to exist.
Yeah.
And to be held and to be divinely supported.
Yeah.
And it's not like you don't have to earn it. You don't have to prove it anymore. It just like gets to be. And that's through that authenticity and that willingness to be transparent. Like, I'm not here yet. here are my edges, here are my shadows, here's what I'm still excavating, here's what I'm actively reclaiming. And then people get to do it alongside of you. You get paid, they get held, they get inspired, they get shown, not told. They get to lead themselves. I get to be held, you get to be held. It's a win-win, and the circle just expands and gets wider. And Mama Bali has just been the ultimate mirror for all of that. So would I have asked for any of this? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Would I take any of it back? Also, absolutely not.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
Mm,
Oh, so much, so many
I know.
codes just in that. So for a lot of women, that you're talking about like this big moving into and travel and experiencing internationally, freedom may look like that. The leap, the relocation, the big decision. So, your intention of going to Bali, a big part of it was that freedom. So, what has this experience taught you about what freedom actually is?
Yeah. Well, I mean, a little bit of what I just touched on is like, it's reframed luxury. It's
Yeah.
reframed, like all of these little things are like, oh, that is freedom. So, like, now the next time that I get in my car and I get to have my windows down and I get to take myself to wherever I need to go, how much like more access do I have to the frequency of freedom because of this, reframe, because of this expanded visionary perspective, to reference one of our archetypes? Is it's like this like greater zoomed out perspective. And so, but I had to find it. I had to be in the act and in the art and in the practice of cultivating the feeling of freedom in a moment where I was like, I'm going to be so free. Like, look at me. And it was true. It was not incorrect for me to have and be in a place where I created so much quote unquote freedom that I even had the privilege, if you will, right? Like, privilege is, I heard someone recently reframe it that it is the power of having choice. If you have choice, you have privilege. Beautiful,
Oh.
right? Yeah.
Mm,
So
mm.
having to like even be able, like, this is a choice that I could make. This is a choice that I could make because I created a revolution, and I created like that level of financial freedom where I felt safe enough and secure enough in my income and in my world and what I'm building to be able to make that kind of, decision. But also the work that I had done with my family, for my family to feel safe, because they did have to choose in, which was a whole, initiation for them as well, in really understanding what choosing in means and how to participate with that, like, that visionary perspective of like, if I'm saying yes to this, if I'm choosing into this, then I'm also choosing into this, and I'm choosing into this. And so there's been a lot of codes inside of our family that have come online, a lot of from our lived in experience of being here. um and so, but it's that freedom wasn't just going to find its way to me again in a moment where it could have been really easy to stay in the victim, and I would have been valid to sit there and be there in that spot of like, I don't feel free, I don't like, and what am I going to create with this now felt sense of like, am I as free as I thought I was? What is freedom to me? And like being able to redefine the attachments and the stories and the perspective of like what freedom means, and expanding my capacity to create it and hold it, to restabilize inside of the frequency so that I'm a match for that next level of freedom. But I had to create it with really raw, messy, unexpected materials that life gave me. It's like, you
God.
want to be free? You say you want to be free? Here's your invitation. Here's your initiation. Go cultivate freedom inside of this. Cultivate freedom now. Can you hold and restabilize inside of this frequency when it doesn't look like what you thought freedom was?
Yeah.
And now my capacity to hold that frequency is that much more expanded because of it. And so, yeah, everything's like it's deconditioning more attachments that like subtly creep into your identity of what freedom looks like, and then shedding it again and again and again to be able to expand your capacity to cultivate it, create it, and have the capacity to hold it when it doesn't look like what it previously looked like in a version of you that you outgrew.
that. One of my favorite things in witnessing you through this, and one of our calls, you had mentioned about like, um, part of the alchemy is also creating from it and like
Mm.
being creative. I mean, one of the things that I've heard before is like the opposite of depression is expression. And so like what can you create? And so that's what I'm hearing through this too, is just like a part of your freedom is also the reclamation of like I can create something from this. And
Mhm.
you through that, you also created 75 Gold, which was just
Yes.
like this like within a week you had an app up and going of just like your act of devotion and then
Yeah.
bringing it to us and then bringing it also to other people openly and on social media and cultivating a new community around it. And I think that's like another one of those awesome things. It's just like you have this freedom to, I think one of my favorite parts about 75 Gold is just every single day we do this check-in and within ourselves about our intentions, our what we're devoted to in that day. And then the best part of it all is like, what story am I telling myself from this? Because that right there, having that check-in, that radical choice in that moment has shifted so much for me. Because I'll berate myself so quickly. I'll be the first one to do it. Like, I'm on my third rest day right now. Why?
Mhm.
I have so much I want to do. But then I'll be like, I chose fully into rest. And I know that like I'm an embodiment. I am receiving codes. Like I know that like this is ultimately my creation process, that there is timing and everything. I am not behind. I am not a failure. Like it's been stripping me too of like the unlearning of this patriarchal thing of like rest is not productive. It's not true. Rest is so
Right.
productive. You,
Yeah.
that's where creativity and whole, everything is
Your
birthed.
channel
Your
can
channel
receive.
opens.
Yes.
You're replenished.
Yes.
Well, it kind of
And that
brings. Oh, go ahead. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
well, with 75 Gold, it was not on my radar to create, but it kind of goes back to that. Like, I got here and I realized I'm like, oh, I am very accustomed to having a cadence, to having a rhythm. I'd really dialed that in a way that really did feel so good. Like, I could rest if I needed to rest. I could work if I needed to work. I had places that I would go to that would inspire me, that were like predictable. And I'm like, okay, I know if I need a little more inspiration, then I go work at this coffee shop. Or if I want more of this vibe and this kind of inspiration, I go here. Or I have this conversation with this person. Or I go have a play date in the mountains and I know where the mountains are and I've been there before. So that's safe in my nervous system, right? Like I had this really beautiful cadence, which is so powerful and so potent. And like anybody who is struggling to find flow, working with your environment is such a beautiful way to do it. So it's not inherently wrong. It just like I was suddenly stripped of that. And so I'm like, how do I create a cadence and a rhythm to recultivate this felt sense of safety, even when every single day looks different? Because that's part of Mama Bali's medicine too, is the level of flow that she initiates you into. And if you do not have any kind of intention or devotional ritual, you will get lost in the flow and absolutely nothing will get done.
Yeah.
You will get lost in the flow and absolutely nothing. It's like if you only do energetic work and you never actualize and participate with your 3D reality, this is for what? Like we are human for a reason. It's that yes, ascend, but also like descend. Let's get back into our body. Like we're here for a very, deep call and purpose and reason. And so it's that like coming back to, okay, I actually need to practice reclaiming my masculine in this environment, in this place where there is so much flow. I know if I do not hold any kind of devotion ritual to my intentions, they will not happen here. I will get lost in the chaos of the jungle and of the waters and of the oceans and of the shore and of the people, which again, like not inherently wrong, but I have a desire, a deeper desire than just get lost in the flow, that I needed to like reclaim that. So I needed to create it, but in a way that felt really good and did not disrupt, really allowed me to still sink into the medicine of the flow that's here and reclaim the waters because I am so fiery. And so that's something that I know that I need. And it's actually my masculine that helps me hold my feminine in deep devotion. But I had to reclaim that because my masculine had burned me out, right? So I had to like really reclaim that divine union, which I know is something you so beautifully model and speak to, and that like refining that harmony. And so I was like, I need devotion to stay devoted to this deeper desire of what I really wish to hold inside of this space and inside of all of these activations. So now I have very uncertain, where am I going to live? We had mold issues. We had to move villas very unexpectedly multiple times. So I like thought, I'm like, okay, we'll settle in the next place. We'll settle in the next place. We'll settle in the next place. And I'd get to the next place. And I'm like, oh, we're not settling yet. Okay. Okay. All right. What do I need? So there's just so much. I'm like, and inside of that, if I did not have this devotion practice, I wouldn't have leaned into creation. I wouldn't have been able to so 75 gold was, what do I need to reclaim and hold myself here? What infrastructure do I need to feel held? I wanted to feel held. And that wasn't just like, yes, there's reception, but I have to be a match for that level of reception. So how am I holding myself? How am I creating energetic infrastructure that can do the holding for me? What kind of clients am I an energetic match for that also can hold and expand me in the same way that I can hold and expand them? Right. So like all of these codes and activations, but it kept me creating 75 gold, moved me, helped me alchemize, got me back in my womb, back in my body, back in my power, back in my fire, by like really accessing this very feminine friendly masculine energetic infrastructure. Like it is really beautifully harmonious because it is about alchemy, it is about flow, it is about devotion, not discipline. I needed it to really keep me in the flow, in the waters, in the in the uncertainty, in the where is she going to take me next. And so it was through, what do I need to reclaim where I'm going, and can I take people along with me? So it's
Yeah.
just as much for me as it was for the other. And then that creation like got me up again and again and again and again and again. I was able to create gold inside of all of this, these crazy activations. But because I created that, I created it. I called my power back. I didn't wait for my circumstances to change. I want to feel free. How do I feel? And like creation was a part of that alchemy. And that's what I find is in your revolution, in your reclamation, we talk about so much somatics of moving our body and the breath work and the hypnotherapy and the dance and the raging and the screaming. But I also like know like the opposite of depression, expression, right? Like that. And what is our like rawest, truest form of expression is creation and play. Like you think about a kid who like cries and like, what are the next thing to do? They're throwing a temper tantrum in their bedroom. And the next thing you know, they're building with Legos.
Yep. Yep. Play.
Like
Yeah.
they're playing with their imaginary friends.
Yeah.
They know alchemy, and there's so much medicine in that. And so like you can get paid to exist. You can get paid to alchemize your own shit and take people along with you and create what you need. Because if you need it, there's someone else who needs that same medicine.
That, that. Yeah. I was going to touch on this earlier. You were talking about like your what you've been through, your story, that being the trailhead, where you are now and what you're claiming in the future. And I don't even want to say the future. It's like what you're claiming, what you know, what you heat, what you feel, what you like it, because it's all that is. And the what you keep talking about of the circle of leveling the playing field. I personally think that this is the most radical, systematic breaking down that anyone can bring into their practice. Because if we look at like a collective global scale, there's always there's a power dynamic. And so many of the things that you've been touching on, even just in like your upbringing of just like, I need to perform. I need to be a part of the success paradigm. Like I need to prove myself, like I resonate with so much of this too. And for previous podcasts, I share a bit about my story of the corporate world and trying to prove myself and all that. And what I love so much about this is we're burning through all of that. We're deconditioning, unlearning, stripping down, and all of it is just going down to like the most raw, authentic, fucking powerful you that there is. And like when you are leading from that level of embodied leadership and alignment, like you're no longer pushing, you're no longer performing, like you're no longer proving to anyone else because you have so much trust within yourself. You ended that pendulum swing. You neutralized that. You reclaimed. And then you took up your fucking space and you lived it out loud. Let's talk about that. I want to talk about your live
Yes.
out loud movement. Yeah, let's hear
Yeah.
about that. What inspired that? Whatever you want to share.
Yeah, so I have this master class called Fuck the Niche, and really
Yeah.
it's one of the very first quantum frameworks that I teach inside of the Brand Revolution, my Burn the Blueprint business school, because it is the foundation that is missing from so many multidimensional beings, where they're like, I have all this medicine, I know I have this story, I know I have this desire, I know I have a womb, like how do I take all of this, like feels chaotic, and how do I make it feel cohesive without cutting off my arm, without cutting off my leg, right? And so as I've through working through with so many different coaches and mentors and being inside of so many different spaces, all of these like codes and keys, and like, okay, we're closer. Okay, we're closer. Okay, we're closer. Like it's like this giant Venn diagram, right? Like this beautiful, like geometric, sacred geometry, right? This Venn diagram of all these circles that I'm like, okay, yeah, this overlaps here, but it's still missing something. It's still missing something. As the quantum engineer that I am, that I'm like, this house won't stand on its own. It's missing something. And so, really, the Live Loud movement was the piece that locked in that entire framework for me. Is as I stayed curious, I follow my curiosity when I'm like reverse engineering things. I'm like, okay, that's almost it, but I can tell the resonance isn't like, it's not the whole big visionary perspective. Something's missing. And so it was that piece for me. They're like, what's like the greatest center point of my story, of my standards, of my desires, of my beliefs, of what I've already reclaimed, what I'm still actively reclaiming, my big desires, my big dreams, and this like deep soul call that's like alive and awake. Like, where does this all converge? What is the essence of the center point? So it's like, it's the whole. We're not taking any of it out, but there is a center point. So when I when we talk about niching, how liminal and limiting that is, it's like, what do you do and who do you do it for? And all of that is outsourcing your power. All of that, like there's in no world will that tell the whole picture of who you are. And so many people again feel this is why people feel so sticky around strategies, because there are so many attachments to still that performing aspect, that performative aspect. So it's never going to feel good to us, as embodied leaders. And so I'm like, but I also get like there are some codes and some curiosities. I do have a type, a type of woman that I am here to serve, right? So it's like it's a part of the whole, but it's not the whole story. And I was actually at a conference that like 3 days before this conference in another state, that suddenly it was like, get in a plane and get there, be there. And so this beautiful mentor, Shoshana, she dropped in like, some of these other pieces in her own unique process. But there was something, and I can't remember exactly what she said, but she kept talking about this through line. And I was like, so in my reverse engineer brain, I'm like, okay, to me, the through line feels like what I'm trying to name and claim as my center point of my, revolution roadmap is, my unique process. So she kept using this word through line, and it was activating. And I went home and I kept like sitting with, okay, through line. Okay, that's the center of my Venn diagram. Like what is the through line? What is the resonance, the essence? What is the soul call that makes everything in my reality make sense, including the process of how I see the world and how I see business and how it's different. So this is something that like really makes your brand stand out. It's your hot take. And in that, you have to be willing to be in your activation and your polarization. And it's usually something that I call like a moral inversion. It's something that like likely is going to be a little bit provocative or confronting for some people. It requires you to be with the part of you that is most afraid of being misunderstood,
Mm.
because of the stories and the constructs that we have around what this would mean and what people think that it means. And like, that's why it's so revolutionary, is it's so activating and pulls you into your power and like helps you decondition that. And so I was sitting with like, what? Okay, looking at my story, look at my stand, my hot take, look at my standards, like my non-negotiables. Like I always say, like I hope it's okay to swear, but like my hell yeses and my fuck nos. Like the potency of like a fuck no. Like I will not, I cannot, that cannot exist. I am a no. And I use it with that verbiage for a reason, because of the resonance of it. Like, what are my hell yeses and what are my fuck nos? And because of how suppressed I felt as a child, I never want anybody to feel that, because I know what that feels like, and that is a fuck no for me. I cannot be silenced, and for the love, I will not silence you. But then looking at my frameworks, okay, this is how I see business, and this is what makes it unique, and this is what makes it different. Where I'm like, I have to be revolutionary. I have to take people where I haven't even gone yet. I have to invite people in before I feel ready. I have to, right? And so like all of this kind of like came to a head, and the download and the like codes came through that like I am here to birth the live loud movement. And it's like, and loud isn't I'm screaming, loud isn't I'm commandeer, right? Like I had to decondition what loud even meant to the rest of the world. And I had to add my frequency and my truth and my resonance and reclaim that word, and invite people into my field to reclaim that word for themselves. Cause like sometimes silence is deafening, and that's the loudest thing you can do. And sometimes silence is the trauma response, and you have to actually yell and rage and scream, right? So like, what is the deeper resonance of the word loud for you? How do you need to reclaim that word in this moment? And what you think it looks like versus the actual truth and resonance of what that like loud, mass, authority, your capacity to take up space and be fully embodied in your truth. Live that out loud. If that is to be quiet, if that is to be slow, if that is to take rest, if that is to be like scream and yell and rage and be fiery and be disruptive and run and sprint, if that's what you feel called to do in that season, it's like, can you live that out loud unapologetically without fear of being misunderstood? That fear of being too much or not enough, and returning to your power, your fire, your flame. And so that's my center point of everything that I do, and everything that I birth runs through that foundation of that reclamation. That is the center of my being and my essence. And that's who, like my parents always say, I like when I came out of the womb, they're like, how did you come out of the womb? And they're like, the way that you live your whole life, like OUT, like they're like the doctor, like, how is she developing? How is she? And I just like darted, like flew out of the womb unexpectedly. Like, here she is, right? So it's just like a through line. Like but it's a part of me that like, especially in a very feminine world where people are like moving so slow. And like, and I had to dance in that space. And also there are times where I'm like, thank you, projectors, for being a permission slip and that reminder to slow down. And I am here to alchemize. I am fire. I can alchemize and I can move very quickly, and I have the capacity to sustain it in a way that actually feels so alive. It feels so correct for me. It is fun for me to be, to just be able to be the dragonfly and like pivot as the man gen that I am. And so I had to reclaim that, especially in a world where everyone's like, slow down, be slow, be slow. We've been moving too fast. And that, again, I burned out. Like that was true. So I needed that medicine as well. But also when I like go through my like truest essence, like I came out of the womb this way, moving this quickly through time and space, and like trusting my yes and running with it like unapologetically, and it fuels my aliveness. And so it feels actually so good and juicy in my body to move at my tempo and my cadence. And I had to reclaim that iteration of my loudness as well, in especially in a spiritual community where I'm like, am I moving too fast? Am I moving too fast? I know this is confronting for other people, but trusting that medicine, like also, where's your edge? And like when you're ready, like, and not from force and not from hurry. I'm not hurrying. I'm not rushing anywhere. It's just like when it's correct and it's alive, I have the capacity to move at the rate and the speed at which I need to move. And where do you have that capacity too? And what are your stories around how quickly you can or cannot move and what is correct for you, right? So, like, that medicine serves in so many layers, so many dynamics. But I really had to reclaim my fear of being misunderstood for being that like obnoxious, loud, like, really, like, what do we hear when we hear the word loud? So, is this reclamation of that a moral inversion of like, no, what if you did live loud? Live your truth out loud. And that's how we also show, don't tell. That's like
Yeah.
for me, like that's the reclamation of the embodied leader, and the way that I'm here to be an embodied leader is to live it out loud, even when it's messy, even when it's, sticky, even when I don't have it all figured out yet, to name where I'm going and who I'm actively practicing embodying before I've mastered the art of it and taking
Yeah.
people on that journey with me. So that's the movement. That's the revolution that I am here to birth, and I am so deeply devoted to unapologetically.
Fuck. Yes. Yes. Woo! So
Woo!
one of my favorite things that you did this winter as well, it was the Let's Get Canceled challenge. Get canceled
Mhm.
challenge. Like, oh my God. Oh my gosh. I
Yeah.
I had I was totally on the bandwagon to join in like November, December, and then you shifted it to January. And I was like, oh no, I'm in Sagittarius season. I'm fucking going. When it went fire seasons, I'm like, let's go. Let's go.
Mhm.
And so but I'm so grateful for that, like, just even that code right there of like, let's get canceled. And then like I partnered up with another woman in our mastermind, and she was like, I'm ready too. Let's do this. And so we supported each other through it, and I'm so grateful for it because the things that I was so scared to share publicly to be witnessed in was like I wanted to talk about the fire of the shame of being raised in Catholicism, and like what that like what I alchemized and what I burned. And for a really long time, it was like I had so much anger and I didn't want to project out my anger. I didn't want to point fingers. I took the time to like really be with it and to like articulate it and understand it and alchemize it. And also I'm still really fiery about it because my big fuck no is shame.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's a moral inversion too, right? Like, I know it's provocative, even me, where I'm like, but it makes people pause. It makes people feel something. It is like a high voltage activation. I'm like, get canceled. Wait, I don't want to get canceled. Like, and that was like a woman that entered that space. So she slid into my DMs. She was like, this is very confronting. Why is it called like, she literally asked, like, why is it called get canceled?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like, that is why. Like, that is why it's called get canceled, because it's that reclamation of that shadow. Like, where is our fear of being canceled? And the only way we can actually be canceled is if we're willing to cancel ourselves. And even in the names, right? Like, you look at like my branding, and this, so much of the codes of what we teach inside of the Brand Revolution Business School is that through line. Can you feel the live loud movement? Live loud. Where are you canceling yourself? Where are you muting
Mm,
yourself, right? Get canceled. Also, fuck the niche. Where are you muting yourself? Where are you not living loud? Where are you niching yourself when, instead of really accepting all of your quote unquote chaos and decondition, right? Like, so you can see and feel that through line and that resonance through the entire brand. So when you have that focal point, when you have that center point, it becomes the foundation. Everything starts to feel cohesive, and you get to make art. That's my form of art. You're this beautiful artist, and you can see color, and you can, blend them together in ways. And that's what I do with business. Like,
yeah.
building and creating revolutions is my artistry, where I can, like, even with others, businesses, where I'm like, something here feels incomplete, or there's a disresonance. Is there something you need to reclaim here? Like, is there something, a key code missing that's actually the full picture, but this is likely you're likely smothering your flame. You're likely trying to
Mm,
mute it. You're likely trying to minimize it to stay safe. And so it's a lot of, the deeper work of reclaiming your loud, your ability to take up space and be
yeah.
seen. Yeah.
Ah, yes.
Mhm.
So in the brand revolution, you teach powerful archetypes: the
Mhm.
visionary, the alchemist, the architect, the seductress, the authority, and the icon. How
Mhm.
do these show up in a woman's business and leadership when they're embodied versus just understood intellectually? And can you speak on some of the magic of the codes?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with everything, there is such a how often have we had those moments where like I thought even with freedom, right? Where I'm like, I thought I knew what freedom was. And I'm like, now I know what freedom is, right? Like it's like a
Yeah.
deeper and so it doesn't mean it's just that like deepening, right? Deeper into the roots. It doesn't mean you're not embodied in it. It's just like, can we expand? Can we decondition further? It's that, just that spiral that's like going outwards, and so it's felt different. If you're thinking about it, you're still not being about it. It's the being is going to move you differently. The thinking is likely going to actually keep you more frozen, over intellectualizing, waiting in the what I call the waiting room. How many of us are in like this proverbial waiting room instead of getting in the fire? You right? Like full sending in the fire. And we're like, well, I need a little more clarity, or I need to consume a little bit more. I need to know a little bit more before I just start actually moving differently. And that's why I love archetypes and working with archetypes, because archetypes alone are another model of show, don't tell. Each of these archetypes like models a story, a perspective, a way of being, not a way of thinking, a way of being, a way of moving, a a way, a more quantum perspective of brand. But also these archetypes work in every aspect of your life. Whether so, if you're listening to this and you don't have a business, these archetypes still are deeply coded because they move different. So it's for anyone who considers themselves a leader in any capacity, a leader in their families, a leader in their communities, a leader in their homes, a leader amongst their friends, a leaders in, any other organization or something that they're, a part of inside of work, whatever. They still work. So the visionary is really just that zoomed out perspective. Her alter ego is the daydreamer. And so, like, the way that you can feel that immediately when you're like, oh, visionary. Yeah, like visionary feels big, feels expansive. And it's the very first archetype that we work with, because that we have to like reclaim that imagination. How big can you actually allow yourself to dream? And how is maybe that ceiling keeping you small and keeping you from moving different? Because if I believe that I just have to get from here to the end of the room, versus if I know that I have to go from here to the other side of the island, I'm gonna move different. My tempo, my cadence, my preparations, all that is going to be significantly different. And so if we're really playing like too small on ourselves because we're not living our loudest dream, our loudest vision, because we're afraid, like, what if I underperform? What if I don't make it to the end of the island? But like, what if you're not supposed to make it to the end of the island? What if you're just supposed to make it 12 villages over? And that's actually where you're supposed to be, but you won't know if you're still just trying to get to the door. Does that make sense? So the visionary is very end game. It's larger perspective, larger than life, and you can feel the resonance of like the daydreamer. And like also how soft and whimsy, and she's very feminine. She's all about like also flow. Like it has to feel good. The daydreamer is like, no, why do we daydream? Because it feels so good. Because it feels so fun. It feels playful. It's very like, like kind of like childlike in nature. And so she's the one that really helps us start zooming out and seeing the bigger perspective and learning how to play from the long game instead of like dopamine chasing. It's how many of us are like, even with our content, like, okay, I just have to post X amount of times a day. And if you're playing long game, you don't want to burn out. Right. So it gives you that opportunity to find a cadence and a rhythm that feels correct for you in your expression. So it totally changes the game versus if I'm chasing clients and I need money tomorrow, that's short game. And so there's so many codes in the visionary. And then there's the architect. And that's kind of like what I realized I really needed inside of this experience in Bali, where I'm like, okay, the vision is growing. I'm doing some wild ass shit and being initiated into some, crazy experiences that I couldn't even have predicted. What do I need? I need infrastructure to hold me. I want to feel held. And I know I have to create that. I have to be the kind of person who is moving in a way that is a match for that level of reception. I have to call that in, be a match for it. And so architecture is the is not just people think architecture, and again they think masculine. It definitely is more masculine, but it's that energetic infrastructure too that creates the inevitability. It's the environments that you put yourself in that either are gonna help you recalibrate to an old version and an old identity, or you're going to be the small fish in the big ocean and the big sea that you're like, now you have so much space and room to grow and be called forward. So it's like, it's architecting your environment. It's architecting energetically, what do I need or who do I need to show up as so that I'm an energetic match for this? It's kind of knowing like, okay, I'm going to put up this wall. This is the wall that I need now, but maybe this wall just temporarily needs to go up while I'm installing a load-bearing beam, and then I get to take this wall down. So when the architect is married with the visionary's like, it's okay to put up a temporary wall. That's enough. You don't, like that perform. Anyways, there's so much like codes and deconditioning the perfectionist inside of your architecture and letting it actually feel more like art. So it's really like the architect is also, it's also, yes, there's like this mastermind that gets to like, to play out and be like, ooh, what if I move this keystone here? And what if but really the architect is also the artiste, taking the raw material and creating something that is stable and that can stand and also creates a whole level of cohesion inside of your reality. So again, business or not, it's yes, create an ecosystem that is self-sustained and move itself and feels really cohesive, and take all of your multidimensional chaos and curate that in a way that feels really good and expansive to you. That's kind of what we, inside of the month of the architect, inside of the business school, that's what we're playing and dancing with. But you can use those codes in your reality too. Where are your environments, your relationships, your systems, who you're being, where does that maybe need some, refinement? Where is that temporary wall starting to collapse because you haven't put up your load-bearing beam, and things like that. So then we move into the alchemist, and that is the codes of like really storytelling and learning how to tell the story in real time, like tell the ending of the story. So it's how you create art and create a revolution for where you're going, is starting to really practice and master the art of taking that raw material. What story do I want to tell? Period. That's like the whole, the whole code right there. What story do you want to tell? In this moment, when I was curled up in bed and like, I don't know how I'm going to get up again. What story do I want to be able to tell? And moving from that, for me, I really believe this is where the identity starts to collapse from like who we think we are and the woman who has the capacity to, is actually moving from the end of the story first, the spoiler alert, and choosing that. You can't get it wrong. You get to choose. What do you want to do? What story do you want to tell? And then moving from that place. And that's maybe one of the deepest codes of the alchemist. Then there's the authority, and her alter ego is that bitch. Be that bitch. Take up space. Have the audacity to say the thing, to name the thing, to own your medicine, and have the audacity and the vulnerability to share what you're really going through inside of the messy middle. So this is where leadership really starts to crystallize and come online. And we move into the closer and the art of seduction and reclaiming sales as service. But like seduction is also so feminine. Again, it's receivership. Where are we in actual harmony and divine union with ourselves? And where are we actually still over controlling, over manipulating the narrative? Where are we afraid to let the plate fall? Like, what if we let the plate fall? We're juggling all these plates and all these balls in it. Like, what if we let it fall? Can we allow that? Can we sow that? And like, what if someone else came and cleaned up that plate for us? What if we didn't even have to clean up our own, right? Like, where are we acting out in ways that we are not actually a match for receivership because we still have that deep, sticky conditioning that I have to earn it, I have to prove it. And if you are in business, that is felt in your messaging, where you're like, I need to convince you, I need to convince you, I need to convince you, versus I don't need to convince you of anything. I'm going to hold this frequency and I'm going to call it in. And also it gets to be playful. Like sales gets to be sexy and fun and playful and sensual. And it gets to be desire activating instead of pain point activating, which is such a beautiful reclamation inside of the marketing world. So what we do there. And then the icon is the embodiment of all of it. It's that unicorn. You become the unicorn because all of these archetypes, when they are working in cohesiveness, like you're not one archetype, you are multidimensional. So it's that reclamation. Most people are like, oh, I'm this archetype or I'm these two No, you are the whole. This is the reclamation of all of your multidimensionality. All of these archetypes, you can see and find yourself in all of these. And it's show, don't tell. We're telling stories about these archetypes. And how many of you are like, oh, I need Okay. Oh, yep. I do that a little bit, right? Like you're seeing yourself. I'm not telling you that you're missing this archetype. You're telling yourself. You're finding yourself. And that's why archetypal codes and like working with identity can be so effective. But the icon is like where you're really fully embodied in that through line, in that center point, in that unicorn. Like, this is who I am. This is all parts of my whole, the reclamation of my fire, all of it, who I was, where I'm going, what I stand for, what I'll tolerate, my yeses, my nos, my standards, who I want to serve, how I want, how I want to feel, and the active reclamation that is continually happening, even where you like haven't been yet, so you can bridge that gap and start moving as the version of you who already is. And so
Mm.
that's the icon, and that's how she moves.
Yeah. Yeah, this past month we covered the icon, and we also covered how like the icon is just all about radical authenticity. And it was really cool getting to witness you model that through everything you've been going through this transformation and this portal in Bali. And how I love what you say is like the icon is, like Taylor Swift, or like a person that's like, first of all, Tay Tay has been like the fucking like North Star for this whole program.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Listen, I show don't tell. And like these people, whether you like her music or not, that's indifferent. But like she has built something revolutionary that nobody else has been able
Yeah.
to build.
Yeah.
There's codes in that. So we use
Yeah.
those codes. We use her, but also like we use Justin Bieber because it was so
Mhm.
radically different than Taylor Swift's iconic figure. Like
Mhm.
Taylor Swift is like so curated and so like this is her art, and performance is a part of her art. It's not performance because I need validation. It's like that she is a performer. That is her artistic expression. And so the way that she so carefully curates, and she's like visionary beyond belief of like, this is like, I don't even need to drop this code for 2 years, but I'm going to start dropping these Easter eggs here. And then there's Justin Bieber, who's like, you know what? I'm going to make them glitch. I'm going to be the icon that I am. And I'm literally going to like on the Coachella stage, pull up YouTube and just play on YouTube on the stage, messy, raw, unfiltered. And then I'm going to harmonize with my 12-year-old self, 15-year-old self,
Mhm.
right? So, like,
Mhm.
these different icons that are so wildly different, but they are them and they are living their truth and what they feel called to do. And it's disruptive. Again, people love them or they hate them. And that's the point.
Yeah. And what I love what you say about them too is just like an icon is also somebody that, they may fall publicly, but then they also show that they rise publicly. And like there was something like there's a golden like, oh, that came
Yeah.
through when you said that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so for the woman who feels the truth of her power, but still holds back from being fully seen, what is really underneath that? And how does she begin to move through it? What message do you have for the listeners?
I mean, I think Senna, you actually could answer this the best because of your fuck no to shame. But also, I mean, I'm also a fuck no to shame. But like, honestly, that if you really get to the root of like the greatest fear, even like being misunderstood. So like, I'm afraid to being misunderstood can be embarrassing. And the deeper root of like embarrassment is shame. And so it's that shame piece, and shame starts to lose its power when it's shared in safe spaces. So it goes back to that live loud revolution. That live loud movement is the reclamation of that shame. Shame only exists when it lives in the shadows. It only has power when you give it that power and you give it that fear and you feed it with that fear. And the only way to start reclaiming that is to start reclaiming that for yourself, to start being able to share it in safe spaces with people who see it. And it creates that sense of safety and that new proof for the new identity that it doesn't mean anything about you, and that the right people are actually going to see that as something beautiful and a part of your story. And they're going to create that safety. And you're going to start to realize that it is safe to be you and for the right people. And you also start to create the proof that, yes, some people are going to leave your field. And that's also the point. You're a magnet. You are here to be polarizing. And if you're if you're being liked and you're being palatable and you're filtering yourself, that is why you're going to struggle to call in the people who are a match for you. It's going to be felt because you're keeping it safe. And because you're keeping it safe, they're not feeling your magnetism. They're not feeling the power and the potency of your fire and of your flame. Which again, if it burns them, that's keeping your field clean and clear. from people who do not have the eyes to see you. But I also get how that feels disruptively when you have these stories and you have this, narrative in your head that like people leave you when you are yourself, and how that can, reinforce that trauma that you then get to practice really alchemizing. And so it's also that radical permission slip to be gentle with yourself, to give yourself so much grace and compassion in how quickly or how slowly you move through that reclamation. But really understanding the power and the potency of your compound interest, of your like pennies that you deposit in the field. Every time you share just a little bit more, every time you're willing to let somebody leave your field and fall into that grief and that shame and that embarrassment and feel that and process that in your body, and then hold that and then be like, oh, I just created proof that I held that. I'm still here. I'm still alive. And actually, it feels lighter on the other side. It really sucked when they left. And that was, brought up a lot of grief, but I'm still here. And so the identity starts to shift to our nervous system capacity to hold that, to feel that, to process that, to move through that, starts to create safety and safety and safety and safety. It's like, Justin Bieber. When he started, I'm sure a crowd of 20 people probably felt like a lot in his nervous system. And then he started to deal with tabloids and people telling, creating stories and creating narratives. How do you think icons became icons? Exposure therapy, truly, but giving yourself grace and trusting your own timing and your own process. That if it takes decades, it takes decades, and you're not behind. And you get to trust that because you do have to work with the truth of your body and where it is at and what it is actually holding. And so I think that permission slip, and it's usually when you give yourself the permission to move slowly, you end up moving a lot quicker than you think you are. But it's when you're trying to move faster than you are that's actually slow. It's like if you have a reoccurring injury, because I came from the fitness world. So like if you have an injury and you're like, okay, it's starting to feel a little bit better, so I'm going to try and run again today. And then you re-injure your hamstring. And now you're out for 9 months instead of 8 weeks because you tried to run at 4 weeks. So it usually ends up setting you back further. So usually if you want to go faster, you actually have to full surrender into giving yourself permission to move slow. And usually if you give yourself that grace and that compassion, you're probably going to move and heal, and alchemize a lot quicker than you think you're going to be.
Yeah. Fuck yeah. Yesterday I was on so I'm in an alchemy apprenticeship, and we're wrapping up here soon. And on one of our calls yesterday, someone had mentioned, what is the evolution? No, excuse me, what is the pace of your evolution? And I wrote that down and I was like, I love that. I was like, what is the pace of your evolution? Because it's different. It's different for everybody.
Exactly.
Um, so for the women listening, for the people listening who are feeling activated and ready to step into this work, where can they find you and what's the best way to enter your world right now? And you have
Yeah,
many,
I mean,
many labyrinths.
I do.
Many
Well,
gates.
I've one labyrinth. I have many gates to my
That's what I meant.
labyrinth. So I call
Yeah.
it's like my world, my ecosystem is a labyrinth. It moves. It has pull, it has draw. And I teach people how to create that from that energy of like inertia and momentum, and build a portal, not just like an offer, right? That pulls people in. And so I have many gates to my labyrinth, many entry points. But I would say I predominantly hang out on Instagram. I mean, my website, nikkirevis.com. Find me on Instagram at Nikki Revis. That's where I love to hang out. I love to actually like connect because I really believe in a personal brand should be relational and not transactional. So I would love to follow you back. I would love to connect with you. And if I said that there's a really accessible, easy yes for your nervous system, like what gate to enter at, that's going to like move the meter the most as the easiest yes into my work and body of art, I would say is fuck the niche. And so it's a master class. It's that master training that really creates and helps you find your through line, the movement and the revolution that you are here to birth, and really being able to understand your multidimensionality and how and where what part of your concentric circle and your multidimensionality actually is the kink to your flow, to your receivership. And so it helps you everything that you build will come from and through this center point. And so the fuck the niche is where you really start deconditioning everything you thought you knew about niching down to be able to be digestible and palatable for the person, and actually calling in and finding your center point, which is that through line of your whole flame that makes all of your chaos make sense. So that is the place that I would recommend again and again and again. Like that would be, it's the easiest, yes, it's the most accessible offer that I have, and truly, it is revolutionary in the way that you will see your legacy and how to build it unique to you, because your revolution roadmap is not going to look like mine. It's not going to look like Senna's. And once you get inside, you really start to understand what these quantum frameworks I talk about, how they work and how they customize your soul strategy to you uniquely as an individual. I'm not telling you what to do or how to do it. You get to actually lead yourself inside of it.
Yes, and all of the links will be in the description as well. Um, so what are you cooking right now? If there's anything that you want to share before we close with one more question.
Just the Firekeepers Mastermind. It's my innermost circle where we do the deepest work and the most radical reclamation. It is that we call it the fire gate, kind of when you enter it, because it does require a certain level of devotion to expanding your capacity. You will be activated, and it's a really deep integration of these codes. And the icon, the other part of this icon archetype, is also scaling for efficiency, for freedom. Like the women who come to my space want freedom and ease. They want to stay in their zone of genius. And so that's where we really get to integrate those codes and optimize and energetically audit continually our identity and our infrastructure, or our quote unquote strategies, for lack of a better 3D term, where we really get to continue to refine and optimize. Her alter ego, the icon's alter ego, is the cash flow hoe. Like, can you be a hoe for that cash flow? And like, where are you leaving money on the table? In your identity and the energetics first, in your beliefs, your stories, and who you're operating as. And then what infrastructures and systems and support systems can we implement and put in place to refine? Where are people falling off of your sales pages and your landing pages, where you are allowing money to just float away from you? Money needs, like a portal and a place in which it can be received from. And so we get to continue to refine that bottleneck and open the havers. Like, you get to have it. And so that's what we
Yes.
do inside of the work inside of the Firekeepers Mastermind. And it is really, the vision for it is actively expanding thanks to Mama Bali and all of the beautiful experiences. And there's been different festivals and interactions with some really profound collaborators and things like that I get to start bringing into that world. And then there's also been a well-resourced woman is so much more than just money. It's also your being able to tap into resourceful human beings that have their own zones of genius. And really, I believe collaboration is the way of the future. And so the evolution of the Firekeepers Mastermind is really deepening those codes, those opportunities for collaboration, deepening your own embodied leadership, but also creating a global brand and a global network that organically is going to expand your net worth, because you become a well-resourced woman by putting yourself in a world and in a reality that allows you to be well-resourced. That environment, you architect your environment and your world to allow you to be that well-resourced woman. And let me do the heavy lifting for you and bring all of that together in one place. So that's the evolution of the Firekeepers Mastermind. That's my innermost circle, my deepest work, my pride and joy, and my whole heart, and the part of my existence that lights me up the most. Those calls are my favorite. They inspire me and expand me just as much as they expand everybody in this world. It truly is a circling. Everybody gets to be seen in their vulnerability and in their squeeze points, but then they also get to share and show their medicine and be seen as the mastermind that they are. It's not the Nick show. It's the Firekeepers Mastermind, and every single one of us is the keeper of our own fire and our own flame. And so it's that place where we really live and embody that code. And it's a place, radical permission slip, to live your truth out loud.
Fuck yeah. Yes. Did you want to share? You have a really big thing coming up in
Yeah.
September.
I do. I have, so it's included inside of the Firekeepers Mastermind, but there also are tickets. You can just come and experience the fire for yourself. We're having it's a 2-day or 3-day if you're a VIP, the Legacy Lab Live Ceremonial Business Summit. And we're going to be moving through the air gate and the fire gate and the water gate and the earth gate. And it's going to be this beautiful ceremony. There's going to be some incredible keynotes and facilitators and some of my very own fire keepers taking the stage and being seen and fully embodied in their medicine, because that is leadership, is get up here on my stage with me. This is not my stage. This is our stage, which is such just a gift for me to like be able to offer that. But it's going to be really just life-changing, high proximity opportunity to be and get in the room and experience these codes and practice and participate, because again, show, don't tell, but also where are we integrating? Where are we practicing with it? So it's one thing to learn it and consume it. And a lot of business summits and conferences that I've been to is so much rapid fire consumption. And then you are sent home and you're left to integrate on your own. And so we're reframing that, and it's going to still be a high activating portal, if you will. I do have to work with 3D time. We have 3 days to move through this ceremony. But the integration and everything that you need is built into the portal. So we're not just talking about it. You're not being talked at. It will be an immersive, embodied, somatic experience that changes every cell in your fiber and being, and just the reclamation of being in a room surrounded by so many embodied leaders building life-changing revolutions, and the proof that that creates, especially in a world that feels so dense and so heavy right now. I was recently in kind of one of these portals that I got to go to and experience here on a global scale, people from all over the world doing this work and building revolutions and being and embodying the change, and how much proof that was, and how much lighter I feel having experienced that and being in a room like that, and the ripples of me just seeing that and being in that room and experiencing the power of the leaders that are out there making the world a better place and alchemizing the density and the heaviness that we're all experiencing. So it's obviously the experiences built into the labyrinth, the legacy lab. But beyond that, deeper than that, is just the power and the proof that comes online and the codes that come online by sharing space with so many powerful, potent, devoted, embodied leaders. And so it's a culmination of all of that. And that's going to be September 23rd through 25th in Southern Utah. You are invited, and I would be absolutely honored to have you in that space.
Yeah. And I'll be there. Please come.
And Senna will be there.
I'll give you a hug.
Senna will be there, and she will be on the stage. As she should be. As she should be.
So, Nick, this has been so beautiful. Oh, so fiery, so activating. I know that any women listening right now made it to the end. I want to leave them off with one last juicy transmission. What is a final message that you would like to share with listeners?
I mean, I think we've really hit home on the live loud. And one of the greatest methodologies that I teach inside, and really I don't teach it. It's science, guys. It's quantum physics. I didn't make the rules, okay? But it's one of the forces that I should don't shoot the messenger. But it's one of the forces that we teach and we build on again and again and again that help you. Like, okay, live loud. I get it. How? Where do I start? And so that's like really understanding momentum. Momentum as one of truly the most feminine forces that we can tap into, that allows us to move the meter further, faster, without having to do more. Like, how does that feel? Like, just like sit with that for a second, like take a breath inside of like, I can have, because most of us are like, we see momentum through force and through grit and through like, oh, I got to push the boulder up the hill, and how heavy and dense that feels. So that reframe of what momentum actually is, that momentum is a feminine force where the universe gets to do for us what we can't do for ourselves. And so understanding that momentum is going to help you live loud, is understanding that it's mass. It's your capacity to take up space and be seen in your sacred fire. Right? Like your capacity to take up space. That's your mass, that's your frequency, that's your field. That times speed. And now this is a reclamation of what you think speed means. So velocity, it's mass times velocity. Velocity is right, like the rate at which you move through time and space. How do you increase that number? How do you increase speed without doing more? It's your capacity to choose. So it's choice. Like speed is just choice into your truth. So it's not rush. It's not force. It's not hurrying. It's, can you get out of this proverbial waiting room where you're feeding the fear and you're feeding the doubt and you're feeding the uncertainty, or you're waiting for clarity without understanding that the universe is responding to who you are being. So you waiting in the waiting room, waiting for clarity, is telling the universe that that's who you are. That you're waiting for clarity. Guess how the universe is going to respond? With more uncertainty, more lack of clarity. But the speed and the choice, the velocity is in the choice and your capacity to trust that guttural instinct, to trust that voice, that intuitive pull that's like, just get in the car. I know you don't know where you're going. I know you don't know where you're going, but I can't help you get there until you're willing to get in the car. Okay, turn on the ignition. Turn on your headlights. I know it's dark out there. Turn on the headlights. And suddenly you can get from New York to California with just your headlights on. The road will illuminate itself, but it requires you to be in motion. And motion is not it. Motion could be the choice to rest. When you come to a stop sign, to honor that stop sign and to choose not to resist the stop sign, but to surrender into the stop sign and like surrender there and honor that, like fully sink into, fully choose in to the stop sign or the stoplight, fully choose into the pivot or okay, it's time to turn right. Get out of the waiting room and turn right. Get out of the waiting room and stop and trust that sacred stop. Get on the highway. It's time to cruise. You can go faster than you think. Whatever that choice is for you, that is velocity. That is speed. It's not rush. It's not force. It's deconditioning and looking at it from that quantum perspective of what velocity actually is. And the only way we get faster at trusting ourselves and our sovereignty, our power as a sovereign being, is to practice choosing and then becoming the alchemist and realizing that every choice, coming to Bali, such a choice, such a radical choice, and having to make choices and like, is this right? Is this right? Am I supposed to go to this villa? Oh, this villa has mold and is making us sick. We need to move. Oh, I'm going to go to this villa. Oh, wait, there's like packs of dogs and I can't leave my villa. It is not safe here. I have to pivot again. I have to pivot again. But the amount of proof that I now have in my body and my being to feel safe moving and moving quickly, and knowing that I didn't get it wrong, that I learned so much in those experiences and in those moments. And that's how you get faster. That's how you bend time and you work with momentum, and suddenly you're just cruising down the hill of momentum. What's happened for me, especially the second half of this trip in Bali, that momentum, because I just kept choosing. Because I've spent the last 5 to 10 years really reclaiming my power and my fire, living out loud and practicing just choosing, and building that trust in myself to figure it out, to see that proof that the path always illuminates itself. The next best step, that's all I need access to. And it gets me where I need to be every single time. And that's how you build momentum. And that's like really one of the core frameworks of living loud. And being in our feminine flow is using that powerful force of momentum, not force, grit, will, power, discipline, but flow. But it can be really fast. It can be really fast, but it can feel really spacious in that speed. But we have to recalibrate. So the fire gate is where we recalibrate.
Oh, oh, this was so yummy. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank
Thank you, Nick.
you,
Thank you so much for being on the
Jenna.
podcast. It's been such a freaking honor. I love you.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for being such a model of being what it looks like, what it feels like to be divinely sovereign, your ability to be raw and vulnerable, and to ask for support and ask for what you need and to be held and to be seen is stunning. And it has expanded me to share such close proximity with you. And I had opportunities to share space with you in containers that we were both a part of, and for you to offer and open your circles. And I was a part of the Feminine Ache, and I've just gotten to witness the potency of your medicine, the potency of your prayers, the potency of the guide that you are, and truly a guide of allowing people to stay sovereign and to really understand what that circling gets to feel like has been such a gift for me. I know it's been such a gift for every firekeeper inside of the Firekeepers Mastermind that has also gotten to share this close proximity with you. And I know those ripples continue to ripple with anyone who comes into your field. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I love you so fucking much. And I love your fire so much. It is medicine and balm for my soul.
Oh, I fucking
I love
received
you.
that. Thank you. I feel like we should end with your with your final saying that you close with every single call.
Yep.
Yep.
We usually take 3 big breaths. The first breath is for ourselves always, and the second breath is for our sacred fire, and the third breath is for the ripples, the inevitability, and that compound interest of every small little step that you make has a 10x ROI. It's the ripples on the pond that just create waves by the time it gets to the other side of the sea. And so rubbing our hands together, bringing it to our heart center, taking our first breath just for ourselves, feeling and pouring into our own being, returning to our own center, calling back all of our power, settling in with our exhale. Our second breath is for our fire, our sacred fire, the inner fire keeper that you are, and the fire keepers that you see that beautifully mirror and expand you in your field. Big inhale. Exhaling those ripples. Then the third breath is for the collective impact that your fire has in the field, and feeling that and pausing to feel and experience those ripples and invite the reciprocity, breathing that in, feeling the deposits of every choice that you make and that you trust. Big exhale. The fire in me sees, honors, and never compares the fire in you. I fucking love you. Namaste.